In Magic City, Bund Peninsula Hotel. White and soft big bed, Patrick Davis laboriously opened his sore and tired eyes. See, last night's woman has left. The large suite is left alone. A wave of remorse surged through his heart. Patrick couldn't help but whack his head. Impulsive, impulsive. Alcohol drives people to lust. How could I do this? After stretching his arms, the bones creaked. It was as if his body had been run over by a vehicle. Painful and deflated. Crazy, crazy, crazy. How many times did this charge last night? After muttering a few words in chagrin, Patrick stumbled out of bed. However, having just picked up the clothes on the floor and put them on, he intended to leave the hotel. With an inadvertent glance, Patrick suddenly realized that there was a pile of red things placed on the nightstand. Going closer to take a look. Surprisingly, it was a pile of thick $100 bills. Taking it in his hand and weighing it. As an accountant, he could be sure. This pile of bills is not more or less, exactly $10,000. Fuck. What do you take yourself for? This woman, not to mention sneaking out afterwards. She actually gave herself $10,000. She's generous enough. Does she think she's a duck? No, no, no. It's not an insult. However, quietly think about it. This money must still be taken away. It's even more inappropriate to leave it in the hotel. It would be bad if it was misunderstood as some kind of money trading relationship. So, he neatly put the $10,000 into his pocket. Before leaving, he also didn't forget to briefly organize the messy bed. Hiss! What is this? The moment he lifted the quilt, spots of bright red blood appeared on the clean white sheets. Shocked, Patrick instantly sucked in a breath of cool air. The brain could not help but float up. Is it hard to not be too rough with his own movements last night and hurt people? An encounter at the bar last night. I don't know, because that woman is too beautiful and attractive, or I am too single for too long to control myself. Or I mistakenly drank some wine that had been tampered with. In any case, when drinking to slightly drunk, the two of them looked at each other and sparks were flying. After that, it was out of control. Beep, beep, beep. At that moment, the cell phone suddenly started to vibrate, interrupting Patrick's thoughts. He panicked and fished out his cell phone from his pants pocket. The moment he saw that the caller ID was Tony, it was only then that Patrick snapped to mind that he had an appointment for a job interview today. Hey, Tony, Patrick greeted with a heartbeat. Patrick, look what time it is. Why haven't you come over yet? Tony's tone was full of fire. I'm sorry, Tony, I was delayed by something urgent. I'll be right over now. Patrick was busy apologizing. Tony was Patrick's former boss, and last year he jumped ship to Shanghai real estate. Having been engaged in accounting for more than 10 years and with excellent business skills, he was soon promoted to deputy director of the finance department. The real estate industry has been in the doldrums for the past few years. Many small real estate companies are having difficulties, and they can't even afford to pay their employees' salaries. Not long ago, Patrick finally made up his mind and resigned from the company that was about to close down. Thinking of his old boss Tony in the Shanghai real estate mixed well, he went to have a familiar face to take care of. So he decisively signed up for an interview with Shanghai real estate. Click! After walking out of the room, Patrick took a step and started to run in a hurry. After leaving the hotel, he quickly waved and stopped a cab. Master, Shanghai real estate, hurry up. After getting into the car, he glanced at the time on his cell phone. It was now 9:20 a.m. Fortunately, this place was not far from the Shanghai real estate building, so it should still be too late to rush over there now. Thinking of this, Patrick took a long breath and began to organize his attire in the car's rearview mirror. This mirror does not matter. He realized that there was a blood stain on his neck. He couldn't help but rub it with his fingers, but he couldn't get it off. Obviously a piece of blood has formed, and it won't go away in a short period of time. Oh! This woman was raw enough. In the depths of her emotions, she actually sipped out a strawberry on her neck. This strawberry, so that he could not help but think of the woman last night again. www.33YQXSS, M white skin. S curve, black silk long legs. Absolutely beautiful features, soft and delicate voice like actress Young Me. Such a stunning beauty, no wonder he couldn't hold it. Gulp. After swallowing his throat, Patrick hurriedly fastened the top button of his shirt in order to hide that strawberry mark. 15 minutes later, the cab steadily stopped at the entrance of the Shanghai real estate building. After settling the fare, Patrick quickly jumped out of the car. Then he strides into the first floor lobby. After registering at the front desk, he took the elevator and went straight to the finance department on the 8th floor. Bam! The elevator door opened. Patrick took a deep breath while walking straight to the finance department office. Knock, knock, knock. Enter. After getting permission, Patrick pushed the door in. In the luxurious atmospheric office, there was a row of company leaders sitting at the conference table. Tony, The deputy director of the finance department was also among them. After Patrick stood still, he first bowed and expressed his apologies. Sorry, I'm late. The leaders didn't say anything. All of them lowered their heads and looked through Patrick's resume. A few seconds later, the director of the finance department spoke. Please begin the 3-minute self-introduction. Patrick smiled and nodded at the other party, and then began his self-introduction. After the self-introduction was completed, the interview leader asked Patrick a few professional questions one after another, and Patrick answered all of them. This interview, although Patrick was half an hour late, however, his professional knowledge and skills are excellent, and his ability to react to the scene and psychological quality is not weak. So, even though he came to the largest real estate company in Magic City, his mindset was relatively smooth. Just when he thought that the interview was over, the probability was that he would be able to pass with flying colors. A cold and detached, yet very pleasant and good-sounding voice rang out. Tell us why you left your last job? Patrick looked up at the voice, realizing that the speaker was a female leader sitting on the main seat of the conference table. However, the next second, after seeing the female leader's appearance, Patrick was suddenly unsettled. He stared with wide eyes, frozen in place. In an instant, he felt his blood rushing up and his heart stopping. Because this female leader was no one else. It is last night with their own drunken mistakes of the woman. This woman, although changed last night's beautiful and provocative image, changed into a delicate and competent professional attire. But that delicate and beautiful face and a pair of beautiful to charm the eyes of all beings is definitely not wrong. Well, because Patrick's thoughts had been disrupted and his speech became stuttered. He stood in place in a fidgety manner, looking a bit flustered. Seeing the scene, the leaders of the interview, however, all had an expression of not being surprised. After all, it was well known. Shanghai Real Estate's general manager, Elsa Garcia, was a thunderous strong woman. Although she was not very old, she was quite visionary in managing the company and was able to easily manage the whole situation. She carries a powerful aura of self-importance. A small staff member who came for an interview was shocked by Chairwoman Garcia's aura. It's only natural. A few seconds later, Elsa smoothed a strand of hair on her ear and spoke in a softer tone. You don't have to be nervous, just answer normally. Looking at the woman's bland and self-conscious expression as she spoke, Patrick felt that she should not have recognized herself. After thinking for a moment, he cleared his throat. Then he opened his mouth to answer. I think that I'm not too suitable for the previous company. I don't think that there is much room for development in the former company, and I want to find a very challenging job, as well as a job with a lot of room for upward mobility, in order to utilize my value. Finished speaking. He looked at the opposite woman. His eyes were sincere and firm. Elsa glanced at Patrick with a cold expression. In her opinion, the interviewer's education, experience, and performance were not bad, so he barely passed the test. After a pause, Elsa glanced at Patrick with a cold expression. After a pause, Elsa nodded her head slightly to several executives. The overall level of the people who came to interview this time is not bad, you guys decide. After faintly saying that, Elsa stood up and walked towards the office door. Da-da-da-da. The sound of crisp high heels resounded in the quiet office. All the executives stood up and watched Elsa leave. As Elsa passed by Patrick, he smelled a familiar scent. The aroma was refreshing and very seductive. Soon, the other leaders in the office left one after another, leaving only Patrick and Tony. How's it going, Tony? Asked Patrick in a low voice. Tony smiled and took Patrick's shoulder. The two walked out of the office. Not bad, not bad. You kid didn't embarrass me. You can come to work tomorrow. The internship period is 3 months. Patrick smiled at his words and shook Tony's hand. I'm the one you brought out, Tony. Whether I pass or not, I can't embarrass you. Tony patted Patrick's shoulder with a pleased face. You can enter Shanghai. Your future is unlimited in the future. Do a good job. Saying that, the two of them walked towards the elevator entrance. Tony stopped and said, You go back and get ready. I still have work, so I won't send you down. After saying that, Tony was about to turn around and return to the work area. Hey, Tony, let me ask you something. Patrick pulled Tony's arm and whispered. What is it? That, if you have a fart, don't swallow it. Patrick looked around and cautiously said, Tony, that female leader who finally asked me a question just now, who is she? Oh, that's our general manager of Shanghai, Elsa, the only daughter of Chairman Garcia. Elsa. Patrick couldn't help but mumble. Tony approached Patrick with a mysterious face. What's wrong? Afraid of her. It's normal. She's a powerful person, the industry demoness. The whole company is afraid of her. Patrick frowned at his words. No way. Thinking about last night's scene. Her sweaty and glistening appearance, her soft and gentle voice like Yangmi. I really can't imagine her powerful person side. Hey, what are you thinking about? Looking at Patrick's dazed and lost look, Tony wondered. No, nothing. Tony, then I'll go back first. I've delayed you. After saying that, Patrick smiled and waved his hand. Then, he pressed open the elevator door and walked in. After separating from Tony, Patrick took the elevator to the first floor. He didn't plan to go back now. Touching the heavy $10,000 in his pocket, thinking about it, he felt that he should hurry to return this money. If he accepted this money, then what did he become? It was not like he was a duck. After all, this matter is not honorable, and now it involves the general manager of Shanghai Group. Must not tell the others, it is better to quietly solve it by himself. A few moments later, Patrick quickly walked towards the front desk. Hello, may I ask what is your business? The receptionist politely inquired. I would like to see your Chairman Garcia manager. Please convey this for me. 12th floor of Shanghai building. Inside the luxurious and spacious general manager's office, Elsa was lying down on a massage chair while her assistant Katie was organizing the documents in front of the desk. Ega, it hurts. Who? Elsa slightly frowned and screamed out in pain. What's wrong with you, Chairman Garcia? Are you not feeling well? Assistant Katie asked in a panic. Elsa waved her hand and whispered, nothing. However, although her mouth said it was fine, her body was really swollen and sore. In particular, the sharp pain at the base of her thighs made it incredibly difficult for her to walk. Originally thought that a massage in the massage chair would be better. However, she didn't want the pain in her body to be even more intense. Katie, the assistant at the side, looked at Elsa with great distress. You are just too tired to do everything yourself. Things like interviewing newcomers can obviously be handed over to the head of each department, but you have to be there yourself. Elsa smiled at her words and shook her head. All right, go about your business. Don't worry about me. Ringing. At that moment, the phone in the office rang. Elsa glanced at Katie and signaled her to pick up the phone. Chairman Garcia, a man named Patrick would like to see you. Patrick, isn't that the one who was interviewed earlier? Yes, Chairman Garcia. Elsa hit the pause button and then sat up. What was a new guy who came in for an interview doing here to see himself? And it was directly across the department head, crossing the line to see himself. It was hard to believe that he had something against the company. Let him come up. After thinking for a moment, Elsa said. Getting the instruction, Katie informed the front desk on the phone. A few minutes later, the office door was knocked on. Knock, knock, knock. Enter. After entering the door, the luxurious and exquisite decoration style in the office brightened Patrick's eyes. He walked to the desk with a calm gait. What do you want to see me about? Elsa, who was sitting in front of the desk, said with her red lips lightly opened. Looking at the Elsa with exquisite makeup, cool eyes, and a full imperial sister modeled up, Patrick pursed his lips and said, well, because of a personal matter. Patrick glanced at Katie, who was organizing the documents. Elsa leaned her body forward and crossed her arms casually. Personal matter? Katie's not an outsider, so just say it. It wasn't unheard of for new employees to come to her and show off their talents in order to impress her, and Elsa was used to it. Elsa was used to this, and she thought that this Patrick was probably here to express himself, too. He stood still and scratched his head. He thought to himself, no way. This kind of private matter between a man and a woman should really be said in front of outsiders? Is this really appropriate? Ahem. Then I said, Chairman Garcia, that is, last night the two of us. You don't have to give me money, I'm not doing that, I don't charge. After finishing apprehensively, Patrick hurriedly pulled the $10,000 out of his pocket. Then he took a few steps forward and carefully placed the money on the desk. At this time, Elsa, when she heard Patrick say the word, last night, her heart was already in her throat. She raised her eyes, looking at Patrick in front of her with disbelief, although her heart was already in turmoil. But reason told her, cannot panic, to stabilize. As a female president, at any time, the aura cannot be lost. Katie, you go out first. Elsa calmly said. Katie sniffed and instantly sucked in a breath of cool air. She bit her lips and glanced at Elsa with a face full of surprise, and then glanced at Patrick. Then, with shock and doubt, she quickly walked out of the office. With the door of the room closing. At this moment, only Patrick and Elsa were left in the office. The atmosphere in the room instantly became unusually awkward. After a few moments of silence, Elsa slowly got up, walked around the desk and walked in front of Patrick. After looking Patrick up and down, she frowned and asked, the person from last night, was it you? Patrick raised his eyes to meet Elsa's gaze. That's right, it was me. The $10,000 you left behind, I didn't touch it, now I'm giving it back to you, you can count it. Hearing this, Ilsa subconsciously glanced at the pile of money placed on the table by Patrick. Then she coldly said, okay. Although she was skeptical about Patrick's words, based on her own sporadic memories after getting drunk, Ilsa felt that Patrick's looks and body shape were indeed very similar to the man from last night. Ilsa is a very good example of a man from last night. She left $10,000 when she left. No one will know about this except the man last night. Thinking of this, Ilsa instantly felt very embarrassed and anxious. Can't wait to kick the man in front of her. You know, she was completely drunk all night. Her consciousness was blurred and she lost her mind, allowing the other party to ruthlessly possess and attack. But this man was not really drunk at all, only 3 points of drunkenness at most. But anyone with a little common sense knows. It was impossible for a man to do that kind of thing in a completely drunken state. He couldn't even stand up, let alone several times in a row. Chairman Garcia, what's wrong with you? Seeing that Ilsa didn't say anything, Patrick took the initiative to ask. Ilsa came back to her senses and raised her hand to pull back her hair. Then with a serious face, she said, okay, I know, Patrick. Do you still have something to do? Go back if you're fine. Patrick sniffed and pulled his mouth into a smile, rubbing his hands together a bit in an anxious manner. In his heart, he thought, this woman is not simple. Surprisingly calm when things go wrong, there is not a single ripple in her eyes. It's okay, I'll go back then, Chairman Garcia. After saying that, Patrick took a few steps back and was about to turn around and leave. However, the next second, he suddenly stopped abruptly as if he thought of something. Seeing that Patrick didn't leave, Ilsa leaned lazily on the desk, her 2 long black silk legs naturally crossed together. She raised her beautiful eyes to Patrick. What's wrong? Anything else? There's no harm in you saying it. Hearing this, Patrick instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he asked in a small voice, Chairman Garcia, you won't let me enter the job because of this matter, right? Although because of this kind of private matter and not let himself into censure, this kind of situation is really normal. After all, people were the general manager of Shusher. People had the right to decide whether they would stay or go. And he was just a small staff. But Patrick still wanted to ask clearly in person, hired or not, to give himself a pain in the ass. It was better than going home and anxiously waiting for news. Looking at Patrick's apprehensive expression, Ilsa couldn't help but curl the corners of her mouth and smile. Her lips were red and her teeth were white, and her eyes were like silk. This smile was extraordinarily charming, looking at Patrick in a daze. After laughing, she quickly resumed the unique condescension and detachment of a female CEO. You don't have to think much, Patrick. I won't hold it against you because of this. You don't have to take this little matter to heart, Ilsa said calmly. Patrick was shocked to hear Ilsa's reply. Fuck. What do you mean? Don't worry about it. Last night you had sex with me, and I'm still in a serious state of shock. I'm still in a serious state of exhaustion, as if I've been drained by you. In your eyes, this is nothing? After letting out a deep breath and forcibly suppressing his inner surprise, Patrick nodded his head. Just still let me enter normally. I'll leave you alone then, Chairman Garcia, said the man. Out of manly instinct, Patrick couldn't resist glancing at Ilsa's 2 clusters of glowing white snow globes. And those long, straight, seductive legs. It was these legs that were tightly wrapped around his waist last night. After swallowing his saliva, Patrick turned around very sensibly and left the office with quick steps. Clang! After the door of the room closed, Ilsa looked at the direction of Patrick's departure and froze for several minutes. Soon, a blush climbed on her absolutely beautiful face, and then it burned more and more. The next second, due to the acceleration of her heartbeat, she felt tingling, as if a current of electricity flowed through her entire body. Oh my god. Tic-tac fiction, crazy crazy crazy. Ilsa, what have you done? I can't believe you got drunk and indulged and went to a room with a strange man. And even gave up your precious first time. What's even more frightening is that this man is also a new employee of his own company. Shame overwhelmed her. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that her behavior was shameful. She couldn't help but chop up her feet in place, her hands tightly covering her red and hot cheeks. Just at this time, a burst of WeChat beeps came as intensively as rain. Ding ding, ding ding ding. Ilsa covered her violently heaving chest and tried her best to suppress the anxious franticness inside. Then, she went to the desk. She picked up the cell phone on the desk. Originally thought it was the company leadership group, someone is reporting work. But she didn't want to. The series of messages just now actually came from the family group where no one had spoken for a long time. Group chat, happy family. Mom, baby girl, today is the winter solstice. Go home early after work. Kisses. Grandma, Ilsa, come home early and eat dumplings. Grandma made them with her own hands. Granny, Ilsa, come home early for dumplings. Granny made them herself. Uncle, come home early, Ailsa. There's a surprise. Snickering, Auntie, Ailsa, dress up nicely. Cousin, hee 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 hee. Looking forward to tonight. Longing. Dad, link to today's coal stock quote. Ailsa narrowed her eyes at the group's conversation and felt bad. It's really off the charts. When a winter solstice are so organized. The usually cold and quiet group was suddenly uncharacteristically active. Auntie also specially instructed herself to dress up nicely. It's just a family dinner, and there are no outsiders, so why make yourself dress up? The thing out of the ordinary must be demonic. Difficult not to. Again in the name of the family dinner, let yourself matchmaking? It can't be that he is going to set himself up with director Fang's son Brian again, right? Thinking of that fat and greasy Brian, Ailsa felt sick to her stomach. Thinking about it, Ailsa felt that she couldn't just sit back and wait. We must take the initiative and check the military situation in advance. Beep. Ailsa quickly dialed her cousin Wendy Garcia's phone. Soon, the call was answered. Hey sis, why did you remember to call me? Amazing, tell me, are you going to give me another blind date tonight? Yes, sis, how did you know? Hearing this, Ailsa's heart suddenly gasped with anger. She didn't have the good sense to say, who is it? It can't be that ugly Brian, right? Wendy on the opposite side shook her head. I don't know exactly who it is. Grandma and the others are so tight-lipped that they didn't tell me. Ailsa beamed at that, her beautiful eyes narrowing again. Let's not talk to you just yet, amazing. You hurry up and come over here and find me. Something has happened to me out of the blue. Ailsa hung up the phone. After thinking for a moment, Ailsa dialed her grandmother's number. Ailsa, Grandma's precious granddaughter. Aren't you at the office? Why did you remember to call Grandma? You haven't been home for many days. Grandma misses you. Grandma's tone was extraordinarily kind and affectionate. However, at this moment, Ailsa didn't have the heart to exchange pleasantries with her grandmother. With a slight turn of her eyes, she suddenly had a plan. Grandma, I have something on my mind. I don't know who to tell, so I have to turn to my favorite grandmother. Ailsa just finished speaking. A bright laughter came from the other end of the phone. Ha 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 ha, my good granddaughter. You can think of Grandma when things go wrong. Grandma is so happy. Tell Grandma about it. There are no secrets between Ailsa and Grandma. Hearing Grandma's words, Ailsa curled her lips and smiled. Grandma, I want to ask you, what do you think of Brian? It's the chief's son that you've met. He's after me now. Hearing her granddaughter's words, the straight-talking grandmother instantly waved her hand in a domineering manner. Ouch, my precious granddaughter. You were asking to the point, just right, tonight your Uncle Fong and Brian, however. A sentence was not finished. The grandmother suddenly felt that it was not right. The precious granddaughter could not be probing her own mouth, right? If she knew that the family had arranged a blind date for her tonight. She, who has always claimed herself as a non-married person, wouldn't directly not return home, right? Thinking of these, Grandma hurriedly changed her words. No, it's nothing. Grandma is saying that when we eat dumplings tonight, our grandchildren and grandchildren can just chat about the Fong family. However smart as Ailsa. At this moment, she had already gotten the answer she wanted. Only seeing her red lips rise, she smiled triumphantly. All right, Grandma, I'm busy. Then let's talk at home tonight, touchy-feely. Hey, Grandma hasn't finished yet, you child. After hanging up the phone, Ailsa's brows curved, revealing a smug smile. Noon. Moana Western Restaurant. Ailsa, while eating Western food, slowly and methodically recounted the experience from last night to today to her cousin Wendy. Wendy's eyes instantly lit up after hearing this. She was so excited that she jumped straight up from her seat. What? Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so excited. Wendy screamed. All of a sudden, it attracted the attention of the guests in the whole restaurant. Seeing this, Ailsa hurriedly stretched out her hand and pulled Wendy back to her chair with one hand. Amazing, what are you doing this is? Keep your voice down. People are looking at you, aren't you ashamed? Ailsa warned Wendy to keep her voice down. She narrowed her eyes and approached Ailsa with a bad smile on her face. Sis, I'm happy for you. You've been maternally single for a whole 27 years and finally broke. Last night, oh no, finally opened the door to a new world last night. How was it? Was it comfortable? How was the experience? You should still be in pain now if you were too hard the first time, right? Looking at Wendy's gossipy face and small mouth, Ailsa couldn't help but give her a blank look. She didn't have the heart to say, you. I'm asking you to come and help me out, but you're good, asking about these things. Quickly help me analyze how to escape tonight's blind date, And what's the excuse to fire that Patrick? Wendy instantly frowned at her words. A small round face became an embarrassed character. What? It won't happen, will it? Sis, you're going to fire the guy you had a one-night stand with? Is that so unkind? They at least gave you your first experience with a man and a woman. How can you lift your pants and not recognize them? Hearing Wendy's words, Ilsa bit her lip in anger and raised her arm in a gesture to hit someone. Go, go, go. Don't talk nonsense. If I don't fire him, I will inevitably meet up with him every day in the company. How embarrassing. Ilsa's eyes flashed with panic, and her cheeks turned red again. Looking at her cousin's stunningly beautiful skin after being moisturized and in excellent condition after releasing it to the fullest, Wendy's mouth was tilted into a meaningful smile. Although she was 2 years younger than Ilsa, but she was a proper female sea king, and was now a married young woman, well versed in the affairs of men and women. She could tell that her cousin had gotten the ultimate pleasure last night. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in this moisturized and full state right now. After a pause, Wendy cautiously looked around, then came to Ilsa's ear. With a mysterious face, she whispered, "Sister, I do have a good idea. It can help you solve these two troubles at the same time." Ilsa was shocked at her words. Immediately asked, "What idea? Tell me." Wendy snapped her fingers and said with a serious face, "Sister, for tonight's blind date, even if you find an excuse to escape, it can only escape for a moment. It will also cause Big Uncle's violent anger. After all, Director Feng's social status is not to be underestimated. If you cooled off his appointment, Big Uncle's face will not have any face. I heard my dad say that today Uncle ordered his people to decorate the house. It is evident that he attaches great importance to the Feng family and his son, and he very much wants to facilitate your marriage to Brian." After listening to Wendy's words, Ilsa felt that it made sense. She furrowed her brows, and a hint of sadness rose in the bottom of her eyes. "Yeah, what about that? I don't want to marry that greasy guy. Not even to die. Come on, tell us your idea." Hearing her cousin say that, Wendy stopped beating around the bush. She said cheerfully, "My suggestion is to simply find someone to pretend to be your boyfriend. This way, you can attend the family banquet and completely break the Feng family's thoughts." Wendy's words. Ilsa's eyes instantly widened, her beautiful eyes glowing. Couldn't help but exclaim, "That's a good idea. It's about to go on a blind date tonight. Is there still time to find a fake boyfriend? Moreover, my dad's man has been in the shopping mall for a long time, and his city is extremely deep, so he can't be fooled." Yet Wendy's face was beaming. She raised an eyebrow in triumph and said, "There's a ready-made one here." 1:30 p.m. Magic City Global Harbor Shopping Center. Patrick ate a bowl of beef noodles at a noodle shop and then strolled around alone. Since he was fortunate enough to interview for the most impressive real estate company in Magic City, he definitely couldn't dress casually like he did in the small company before. One must acquire 2 decent lines of clothing. Ding ding ding, was just thinking. WeChat came message. Open to look, it is their own family group talking. The group chat, "Love each other as a family. Mom, son interview success. Mom is too happy, ha ha ha. Tic-tac-fiction.com. Dad, my son is excellent, for the father is very fortunate. Mom used to often take you and Auntie Zhang's son Randy then, think you are not as good as him in everything. Mom, now it seems my son is not bad, well, excellent it. Mom, except for the fact that you don't have a date yet, you're no worse than him. Dad, hey, my son was successful in his interview today, so it's not too late to bring up the issue of finding a date tomorrow." Snickering. Mom, oh, okay. Mom, so son, when are you coming home? We do a table of good food to celebrate the celebration. Patrick calmly looked at the group chat in the conversation between his father and mother. For Mom, always take him and Zhang Ant's son Randy then. As for his mom, always comparing him to Auntie Zhang's son Randy, as well as the 100 times a day urging him to get married, he has long been used to it. He quickly tapped the screen and replied to his mom. "Mom, I'll be back later. I'll be starting tomorrow. I came to the mall to buy 2 outfits." After sending the message, Patrick immediately turned off the lock screen and kicked the phone back into his pocket. Next, he then took a step and walked into a branded men's clothing store. This was the Fortune Shopping Center in Magic City. A gathering place for all kinds of luxury big brands. Patrick picked a relatively more affordable brand, Jekyll Jones. He thought about the tens of thousands of dollars he still had in his bank card, so it wasn't so bad that he couldn't afford 2 outfits, right? "Good day, sir." "Sir, see which one you like? You can try it on." A handsome man was seen coming in the store. The shoppers wearing white shirts and hip skirts instantly brightened up. Patrick nodded symbolically as a greeting. Then began to select clothes. Soon, a blue commuter blazer caught his eye. He walked over and took a closer look at the blazer. Simple and atmospheric style, exquisite and fashionable cut, high quality and comfortable fabric. Not bad, not bad. Patrick couldn't help but exclaim. However, the next second, after turning over the price on the sign, Patrick abruptly widened his eyes, his expression somewhat unbelievable. 42,000? So expensive. Hearing the guests say this, the shopping guide ladies all waved their hands with smiles on their faces. Sir, this suit is on sale right now. 70% off. It's only $29,000 plus after the discount. This suit matches your honorable temperament. It will make you look more sunny and handsome. Yes, yes, it's a perfect match. Only a man of your looks and figure can match this suit. Try it on. Try it on. Unable to withstand a flurry of rainbow farts from the young ladies, Patrick smiled helplessly, then walked into the fitting room. 2 minutes later, the moment Patrick walked out of the fitting room, all of the shopping guides in the store covered their reddened cheeks in unison. With starry eyes, they stared at Patrick with a face of infatuation. Wow, it's so handsome, long and suave. Sir, you are the most handsome guest I have ever seen. Sir, am I right? Take a look at yourself in the mirror. Patrick frowned slightly. With a hint of skepticism, he turned around to look in the mirror. This look didn't matter. He was really surprised at his own image. He could not imagine that he had been wearing a simple and casual dress, but at first he changed into a suit. Actually is so handsome and compelling. People rely on suits and horses rely on saddles. The old saying is really right. It's really good, quite a good fit. After turning around in the mirror, Patrick nodded and said, "It was this price." Committee that made him feel a hint of flesh pain. Do you really want to spend all the money on your body and buy this jacket? This has not yet entered the workforce, the only a little savings spent? But don't buy it and can't help but feel some regret. After all, this suit does match himself, the style and material are great. Just when Patrick was in a dilemma. Ding! A WeChat beep sounded. He subconsciously pulled out his cell phone and checked the message. After opening WeChat, it was actually one from his mom. Transfer, please collect. Fuck. Mom, what is this? A face of confused clicked on the dialog box. Patrick instantly froze. Mom actually gave himself to transfer $50,000. And the message, son, don't be shy, buy a better suit. This is still the same to their own dead stingy mom? Although his mom's unprecedented generosity was unbelievable. But Patrick still quickly clicked collect. Reply to the mother. Thank you, Mom. Love you. Wooden horse. With his mom's financial support, Patrick decided to buy the blazer. Okay, I'll take it. Wrap it up. The shopper instantly smiled and was overjoyed. Yes, sir. I'll write you a ticket. You can also just wear it. I'll wrap up the one you left in the fitting room. Patrick smiled and nodded. And then he followed the shopper to the front desk to pay. However, just at the moment he pulled out his cell phone and opened the payment collection. Suddenly, someone behind him tapped his shoulder hard. He subconsciously turned around, only to see before him stood a middle-aged fat woman with a fashionable dress and a rich face. Beside her, there was also a young brother with an oily head. Hello, you. Patrick greeted awkwardly. The fat woman didn't answer. Instead, she narrowed her eyes and looked Patrick up and down. A smile piled up on her white, rich face, and her eyes released a burst of electric waves. Tisk. Not bad, not bad. What a little lovely boy. Said. The fat woman stretched out a handful of diamond rings and emerald bracelets and patted Patrick's shoulder once again. What are you doing? I don't think we know each other at all. Patrick was startled by her sudden movement. The whole person took a few steps backward in a wary manner. Who knew? The fat woman not only didn't restrain herself in the slightest, but instead approached step by step. After walking up to Patrick, she opened her mouth with a smile. Handsome man, don't be afraid. You can call me Aunt. Auntie doesn't mean any harm, although we don't know each other, but the first time Auntie looked at you, she felt a connection with you. Come with me, I have a few words to tell you. Hearing this, Patrick skimmed his lips and felt bad in his heart. What's the situation here? Have you encountered a bumper car? Or some new type of scam? Well, this Aunt, since we don't know each other, then I don't feel the need to speak, right? Patrick felt that his refusal was quite crisp and clear. Unexpectedly, the smile on this great aunt's face did not diminish a bit in the face of Patrick's refusal. Still smiling, a pair of electric eyes kept scanning Patrick. Handsome, look at them all looking at us. Quickly come over with Auntie, don't let the onlookers look at the joke. Patrick looked around. Sure enough, the store's shopping guide ladies were all whispering about themselves. The crowds passing by outside the tic-tac-toe-novels.com store also couldn't help but stop and gather, pointing at him. Egu, this little brother is being looked at by a rich woman, right? This kid got lucky. This rich woman looks like she's well off. Look at the sister's clothes and jewelry. It's estimated that she can buy a suite in Magic City. Young man, come on, with her, this life can lie flat. Listening to the comments of the onlookers, Patrick could not help but feel a chill down his spine and embarrassment. In order to stop drawing attention from the onlookers, He took the initiative to speak. All right, I'll go with you. I have to make it clear to you, and I really don't want to. Before the words fell, one of Patrick's arms was taken by his great-aunt. Then, without any further ado, great-aunt took Patrick by the arm and went to the corridor outside the store. Suddenly being held by a strange woman, a middle-aged fat aunt, Patrick felt numb and uncomfortable. He forcefully shook off the arm held by the aunt. Then he said seriously, well, let's talk about it here. Aunt, no matter what your purpose is, but I really don't know you, and I don't want to finish a sentence. Aunt interrupted Patrick again. Handsome boy, don't be in a hurry to reject it first. Aunt see you just buy a suit when pay a little hesitant. Is there any financial difficulties? You can tell Auntie. Auntie will help you. Finish speaking. Aunt Inging smiled and squeezed a wink at Patrick, although Patrick is a big straight man, but he is not dull or stupid. At this moment, he already understood this great aunt's idea. That is, to pick up himself. After a brief moment of confusion, Patrick barely squeezed out a smile and said, No, I can afford it myself. May I ask if you have anything else? If there's nothing, then I'll. After saying that, Patrick was about to take a step to bugger off. At this time, the great-aunt suddenly pouted and stared at Patrick as if she was pouting. With the difference of the heart of the party, now she just turned into a look of pity. Patrick looked at the face of a speechless sister-in-law. And that young brother who always stood by the side of the great-aunt at this time also had a face of impatience. Soon, the great-aunt spoke in a sultry tone. Handsome brother, Auntie will open up the sky with you. Auntie just now, in the midst of the crowd, gave you an inadvertent glance and felt a great affinity with you. Would you like to get acquainted with Auntie? Facing such a blunt and raw question from his great-aunt, Patrick let out a bitter smile and hurriedly waved his hand. Well, I'm afraid this won't work. We have a big age difference, don't we? I don't see the need to make friends. Hearing Patrick's answer, the great-aunt suddenly bit her red lips in aggravation. Then, she raised her hand that was covered in diamond rings and emeralds and gently wiped the non-existent tears. Young man, Aunt is a bitter person. Auntie is 48 years old, and when my husband died 5 years ago, I became a lonely person. No one to love, very poor. You can let Auntie feel what it's like to be loved? This blatant confession. Shocked, Patrick instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. What the hell? This rich woman was actually selling her misery. At this moment, the little brother who had been standing beside the rich woman, after hearing this naked confession from the rich woman to Patrick, the expression was instantly tense and flustered. He couldn't help but push and shove his elder sister-in-law and pouted to her. Sister, what are you talking about? Where are you putting me, huh? Don't forget, you just called me baby. How could it be? In the face of little brother's pampering, Auntie directly and mercilessly brushed away little brother's arm. Then she turned her head and glared at little brother with a stern gaze. Shut up, nephew. There's no place for you to talk here. Little brother was instantly silenced in fear, not daring to utter another word. Complaints and indignation were written all over a pale, handsome face. He couldn't figure out how the rich woman, who had obviously favored him extremely just now, how did she immediately change her heart after meeting a new handsome man? He even called himself his nephew? Name a nephew can 24 hours a day, regardless of day and night with you? Does a nephew need to be forced by you to drink bullwhip soup every day? Is himself really more handsome than the dude in front of him? However, at this moment, the rich woman didn't care about the little brother on the side. Her entire mind was focused on Patrick, who had mesmerized her. Seeing that Patrick ignored her, she then continued to speak quietly. Auntie's life is very hard now, without a lover or a son or daughter. There are only a few houses in Tangqing and a few quadrangle courtyards in Imperial Capital that are being rented out. Several Rolls-Royces and Ferraris, all of which have also long been parked in the garage and fallen into dust. Little handsome, don't mind Auntie, okay? What a lot of complaining, The crowd of onlookers not far away scared and shook their heads. Sighing, Auntie, please let me take your place in this kind of suffering. Patrick stood in place with a dumbfounded look on his face, so embarrassed that he wanted to run away immediately. He forced out a smile and said, Aunt, what are you? Auntie, with your face, temperament, and strength, what kind of person can't you find? Me, I have no talent and no virtue, I really don't deserve you. After kissing a bunch of asses against his will, Patrick took a few steps back without moving. He planned to run away from this horrible pervert aunt. But when he thought about the fact that he hadn't checked out yet after buying the jacket, it wasn't appropriate to run out of the mall like that. He still had to find another way to get rid of the aunt's entanglement. At this time, the greasy-headed little brother was so angry that he stomped his feet. He was afraid that everything he had worked so hard for would be taken away from him. But the great aunt still did not want to stop the intention of confession, still flashing a pair of electric eyes in Patrick's body scanning. After slowing down, Aunt continued to pour opened his mouth. Auntie is really tired. Auntie has lived alone for 5 years. The only thing that accompanied me was that magnificent cold mansion and those mountains of diamonds and gold. But now you've burst into Auntie's life. It made Aunt feel that life had something to look forward to all of a sudden. Now you tell Aunt, do you want to be with Aunt or not? After saying these words, Great Aunt once again squeezed her winks at Patrick while twisting her thick bucket-like waist. Patrick stood still in a fidgety manner as he displayed himself in the most attractive way. He felt tingly and embarrassed, practically scratching his ears. He couldn't believe how a good shopping trip. He was spotted by a rich woman and confessed on the spot. Is he the kind of white boy who commits himself to a rich woman? How do they all think of themselves in that way? First, after a one-night stand, the girl dumped $10,000 on herself. And now this. In this world, is it so hard to be a decent man? What excuse should I think of to get rid of this aunt? Look at her. She may have bodyguards behind her, so it's better not to annoy her. However, in case you can't escape in the end, then one would rather die than obey. Look at this aunt's tonnage, at least 180 pounds. If she were to obey, she would eat herself dry. Maybe like in the movies, she'll be fed bullwhip soup by a rich woman every day. In the end, a young guy, hard to be squeezed into jerky. No bones left. Thinking about it, Patrick decided that he might as well try lying about being sick. So, he coughed a few times and opened his mouth with a hoarse voice. Auntie, let me be honest with you. A great beauty with white skin like you is more than a hanger-on like me can ask for. But I have a hidden disease that is hard to talk about, a disease that makes me afraid to accept your kindness. Hearing Patrick say this, the rich woman all of a sudden tightened her smile, only to see her squint her swollen eyes. She came close to Patrick and scrutinized his face. Little handsome, I see that you're in pretty good shape, not like you're sick. It's just a bit of dark circles under your eyes. Is it because you didn't rest well? Patrick sniffed and hurriedly yawned with an exaggerated expression. Raising his hand, he vigorously rubbed his somewhat blue eyes. Originally did not sleep much last night. The fatigue on his face at this moment is not all an act. MT1988.com, and I got kidney disease a long time ago, and now it has developed into kidney failure. To tell you the truth, I can only last 3 seconds in that area, 5 seconds at most, said Patrick with an embarrassed grin. In his heart, he thought, since you can pester me so shamelessly, then I can be shameless too. What? 3 seconds. The rich woman said with a shocked face. Patrick skimmed his lips and nodded. Yes, Auntie. But don't worry, I'm otherwise healthy. Accompanying you through your life, living in your mansion, and driving your luxury car are all perfectly fine. Hee. After saying that, Patrick grinned a greedy and pleased smile. Hearing this, the little white face on the side directly puffed and sputtered with laughter, and the rich woman's expression also had a slight hint of dislike. Well, that disease of yours, Aunt can cure you. You are so young, you should be able to cure. Looking at the tall and handsome Patrick, the rich woman said without dying. However, to her surprise, in the next second, Patrick actually held the rich woman's fat and white hands, nodding his head in excitement at the rich woman. That dares to be good, Auntie. I now also feel that my kidney disease can be cured. After all, you are so rich, you can definitely help me get the best doctor. By the way, Auntie, can I ask you for some money to spend first? Anyway, after I follow you in the future, your money is my money. When saying these words, Patrick had a lewd expression and greedy gaze. He tried his best to portray himself as a lewd loser man who sees money. Seeing this, the rich woman immediately pushed Patrick away with great disgust. Then, she took 2 steps back. Tilting up her white, fat face, she squinted her swollen eyes and looked at Patrick with cold eyes. Looking at Patrick, he went against his high, cool, and handsome male god image just now and revealed a greedy face of flattery. The rich woman's enthusiasm was instantly dampened. The enthusiasm that was burning like a blaze just now has been consumed. Seeing that his acting worked, Patrick hurriedly struck while the iron was hot and said, "That's right, Auntie. I dream of owning a Rolls-Royce to drive. Do you want to buy one for someone else? Or, just give me the luxury car in your garage to drive." Okay. Patrick said these shameless words with a smile on his face. The rich woman immediately felt furious and raised her swollen eyes to give Patrick a fierce white glance. Indignantly, she scolded, "Who do you think you are? 3 seconds of strength and you still want to drive a Rolls-Royce? Dream on you. After saying that, the rich woman was still not relieved of her hatred, only to see her clap her hands with a disgusted face. Spat towards Patrick. Then she threw out the sleeves of her mink coat with great force, tilted her head, and left straight away. The little white man behind him saw this and immediately chased after her with his ass, looking at the rich woman's rounded figure getting farther and farther away. Only then did Patrick breathe a sigh of relief. Good guy. These days, boys must protect themselves when they are outside. After confirming that the rich woman had already left and that he was in a safe situation, Patrick helplessly shook his head. Patrick shook his head helplessly, then turned around and walked towards the clothing store. Just as he entered the store, he heard the shopping guide ladies chatting excitedly about his gossip. Laughing like crazy, ha 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 ha. This handsome guy is so funny, playing cheap has no baggage at all, ha 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 ha. I have to say, this rich woman is also too raw, forcing the handsome man to self-destruct. Women in this era are more fierce than men. After seeing Patrick come in, the shopping guide ladies immediately silenced their voices and resumed their dignified and polite image. Patrick glanced at them expressionlessly. Then he walked straight to the front desk to pay. Sir, your clothes, you take it. Patrick casually took the bag of clothes, then took out his cell phone from his pocket. Sir, may I ask what payment method you use? WeChat. After saying that, Patrick opened WeChat and tapped the payment code. However, just as the shopper guide picked up the scanning gun and wanted to scan the code to collect the payment, Patrick's cell phone rang suddenly. Beep beep beep. Patrick somewhat embarrassedly waved his hand at the shopping guide. Then he walked to the side and picked up the phone. Hello. Seeing that the caller was an unfamiliar number, Patrick's tone was very polite. Patrick, where are you? May I ask if you are Elsa? Even though they only met last night, Patrick instantly recognized Elsa's voice. It was really because her voice was so recognizable, soft and delicate. Like the voice of actress Yang Mi. Where are you? I have something to find you. Something for me? Do you need me to go to the company now? No, I'll come to you. Hearing that Elsa had something to ask for herself and that she had to come to see her of her own accord, Patrick felt a little nervous for a moment. Last night's mistake, object, and his current boss, what would she come to see him? Well, what can I do for you? Patrick frowned, puzzled. Let's meet and talk. You add my WeChat and share the location for me. Elsa's voice is gentle, the tone is indeed unquestionable. Patrick said with some hesitation, oh, that's fine. Just as he finished speaking, the call was instantly hung up by the other party. He shrugged helplessly. Then he copied Elsa's phone number and added her WeChat. After sharing his location, Patrick retapped the payment code, came to the front desk and paid. 20 minutes later, Patrick received a WeChat message from Elsa. I'm at Global Harbor, 3rd floor cafe, come over. After a pause, Patrick wistfully got on the elevator and went down from the 8th floor to the 3rd floor. Along the way he speculated, what was Elsa's reason for suddenly coming to see him? Is it possible that she has changed her mind? She didn't want him to stay in the company? But on second thought, it didn't seem to make sense. If she wanted to fire herself, she could just say a word and let herself go. It is not possible to run to see yourself personally. Could it be because of what happened last night? It didn't seem to make sense, because she had just met herself in the morning. She even took the initiative to mention this matter, but she looked as if she didn't care about it. In her words, this kind of small matter didn't need to be taken to heart. Then, what exactly was the reason she came to see herself for? While thinking about it, Patrick walked into the coffee shop with big strides. Once he entered the store, he raised his eyes and looked around. In the packed coffee shop, Patrick saw Elsa at a glance. She was quietly sitting on the window seat drinking coffee. A red dress, long hair like a waterfall. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her body was graceful. A pair of eyes were soulful and charming, and her voice was extremely pleasant to the ear. The customers in the coffee shop couldn't help but look in Elsa's direction, especially the male customers. In the face of a rare beauty in reality, their eyes were all staring straight. Patrick was stunned for a moment and then walked straight towards Elsa's direction. Wendy, who was sitting opposite to Elsa, saw a handsome man coming into the store. Her eyes suddenly lit up, and she excitedly patted Elsa's shoulder. Oh my god! Oh my god! Hey, sis, this can't be Patrick, right? This guy is so handsome! With his sword brows and starry eyes, he's practically got a comic book face, and his body is tall and slab-sided. Looking at Wendy's dazed expression, Elsa gave her a blank stare. Hey, take it easy, female sea king. Don't forget that you're a married young woman now. Elsa turned her head and followed Wendy's line of sight. When she saw that the other party was indeed Patrick, Ilsa's eyes narrowed. She had to admit that Patrick, in a casual suit, did look good. "Hey, over here." Ilsa waved her hand at Patrick, who stepped around the tables of customers and walked over to Ilsa. Without waiting for Patrick to say anything, Ilsa took the initiative and pointed to the empty seat beside her. Then she introduced herself. "This is my cousin, Wendy." "Wendy, this is Patrick." Patrick smiled politely at Wendy and then sat down beside Ilsa. At this moment, Wendy directly had a dumbfounded look on her face, only to see her eyes continue to light up, staring at Patrick with unblinking eyes. That expression was as greedy as a vicious wolf seeing meat. Ahem. Seeing that Wendy was still in a daze, it was a disgrace. Ilsa coughed lightly. Then she lifted her foot under the table and kicked Wendy vigorously. Wendy then reacted furiously. Realizing that she had just lost her temper, Wendy blushed and smiled awkwardly. "Hello, handsome." After calming down, Wendy extended her hand in greeting. As a man, it was not good to not give face to a lady. Patrick naturally extended his hand and shook Wendy's hand. "Hello." Wendy, who shook hands with Patrick, could not hide the excitement on her face. She was so excited that she looked at Ilsa. Biting her lip, she kept blinking her eyes. It was a kind of expression that only women understood among themselves, meaning, there is a vision. This guy is really great. Sensing that the atmosphere was a bit delicate, Patrick took the initiative to speak. "Well, Chairman Garcia, what are you looking for me for?" Hearing Patrick's words, Ilsa slowly put down the coffee spoon in her hand. Lowering his voice, he said, "Well, I want to talk to you about something. A deal, to be exact. If it works out, I'll pay you a reward." Ilsa's words caught Patrick by surprise. A deal? A reward? Did she want a second deal, like last night? In front of everyone, in front of her sister. Is it really okay to talk about this kind of thing? Thinking of this, Patrick smiled awkwardly. "Chairman Garcia, what do you mean by deal? Actually, there are some things that we can talk about in private." Ilsa blinks her pretty eyes and looks at Patrick with bashful confidence. "This matter is very important to me. It's better to talk about it in person." "Well, I am going to a family dinner. My parents will take the opportunity to set me up on a blind date. In order to refuse this blind date, I want to." Ilsa spoke in a cool and detached tone. But it was still pleasant to the ear, like the voice of the actress Young Mi. Patrick listened in a serious manner, but was confused. What dinner party? What blind date? What did these have to do with himself? Why did she tell all this to herself? To know, although he had a night with her. But after all, just a small employee in her company. And also a day's shift have not worked. As if seeing through Patrick's doubts, Ilsa intends to stop beating around the bush and directly reveal her thoughts. But Wendy couldn't help but intervene before she could say anything. "I say you too. Don't be so polite, It's not like we don't know each other. We've communicated in depth, so don't be so formal, right?" Hearing Wendy's words, Ilsa and Patrick both had the embarrassed expression of a large social death scene. Patrick couldn't believe that Ilsa actually told Wendy about what they did last night. No wonder this sister of hers was so outspoken. It's something that anyone else would feel especially pretentious about with Ilsa, right? Obviously, last night, they were still sky high, but today, when they met, they pretended as if they didn't know each other well. "Wendy, don't talk nonsense. Drink your coffee," Ilsa said with a serious expression. Hearing Ilsa say that, Wendy instantly dared not interrupt again. She rested her hands on her cheeks, her big round eyes narrowed into a slit. With a bad smile on her face, she glanced at Ilsa and sized up Patrick. In her heart, she thought, "Little boy, let's see how long you two are going to pretend." Patrick saw the situation and pretended to be calm and straightened his body. At this moment, the waiter brought a cup of coffee and put it on the table. Patrick hurriedly slammed a few mouthfuls of coffee to hide his inner apprehension. "I'll make it short then. I came to see you for a purpose. To hire you to pretend to be my boyfriend and attend a family dinner with me." Hearing this, Patrick's eyes widened all of a sudden, surprise written all over his deep eyes. "What, Chairman Garcia, you want me to pretend to be your boyfriend?" Ilsa pursed her red lips and said in a cool tone, "Well, yes. You can think about it, the pay and all that is negotiable. By the way, what is your current internship salary?" Patrick, at this time, had not yet recovered from the shock he had just experienced. He replied with a dumbfounded face, $6,000. Ilsa took a sip of coffee and faintly said, "That low. I'll hire you to pretend to be my boyfriend and pay you $50,000 a month." Finished. Ilsa looked at Patrick, and when she saw that Patrick was silent and had a hard look on his face, She said cheerfully. Think 50,000 is too little? That's right, this job probably isn't very good. My father has been in the shopping mall for a long time and is very sophisticated. He's not that good at fooling around. How about 100,000? Do you think it's okay? Don't worry too much. It shouldn't require you to see my parents too often. With a stunned face, he listened to Ilsa's words. Patrick was silent for a while before gradually clearing his thoughts. Dare, this is no joke. Really want to hire himself to pretend to be her boyfriend, and also give $100,000 a month. Although this amount is extremely tempting for himself. But compared to this $100,000, what can be more tempting to myself? It's Ilsa herself. It's the woman who makes his heart flutter at first sight and can't be forgotten after a night's sleep. Patrick thought for a moment before whispering, Chairman Garcia, if you're serious. I think I can try, but I can't guarantee that it will work. After all, you also said that your father's hurdle wasn't easy to pass. Hearing that Patrick had promised himself, Ilsa was instantly relieved, and her tall snowy bulge rippled violently for a few moments. That's great, it's a deal, no backing out. Otherwise, I won't even have time to find someone else. Hearing this, Patrick raised his eyebrows in confusion. Too late. By the way, I was about to ask you, what day do we go to your house for the family dinner? Ilsa, tonight. As soon as the words left her mouth, Wendy began to laugh impishly. Giggle, giggle. Handsome, are you shocked? At this point, Patrick was almost petrified on the spot. He couldn't believe his ears. What? I didn't hear it wrong, right? You're going to attend a family dinner with you tonight? I don't even have time to prepare, right? It will definitely wear off by then. Looking at Patrick's shocked expression, Ilsa smiled lightly. It's okay, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll be home at 6 o'clock. There's still 4 hours to get ready now, that's enough. Now, let me take you to buy some suitable clothes first. With that said, Ilsa pulled a strand of hair from her ear before standing up. As soon as she took Wendy's arm, she simultaneously signaled with her eyes for Patrick to hurry up and follow. Patrick had no time to think and subconsciously followed Ilsa out of the cafe. Several people walked towards the clothing area. Wendy, who was being pulled by Ilsa, walked forward with a reluctant face. She looked back at Patrick from time to time. As a full-fledged female sea king, how could she resist looking at an extremely handsome man? How could she resist not looking at him? Not only could she not resist not looking, she also couldn't help but praise him frequently. Hey, sis, you're awesome. You either don't look for a man for so many years, or when you do, you'll find an interpersonal extreme. Not to mention his face, it's so tragically handsome. His body is even better, tall and thin. He looks like the kind of man who looks thin in clothes and has meat in clothes. Listening to Wendy's gushing praise of Patrick, Ilsa made a motion at her and gave her a firm pinch on the arm. But Wendy didn't stop. On the contrary, Wendy became more and more addicted to talking. Sis, I bet you were high as hell last night. There's a saying. Grass grows thin on the ground, people hang thin. Look at Patrick's height and figure, he must be fierce in that area, right? This naked and fiery speech. Hearing Patrick behind him, his color was very strict. Good guy. This Wendy is even more fierce than that rich woman just now. She even talked about that aspect of men in public. It seems that we have to guard against her in the future. Don't get caught up with her. Looking at the two women walking in front of him. A body posture, flavor. One white and round, plump and playful. According to his own body instincts, Patrick is very clear. Wendy was not his favorite style at all. Ilsa was the one that fascinated him the most. Her beautiful face, seductive eyes, soft and delicate voice like yang honey. There's also the waist as thin as a water snake, high and erect snow mountain. So all sorts of things, all make his heart to be mesmerized. All right, let's take a look at this store first. Ilsa's voice interrupted Patrick's thoughts. After coming back to his senses, he subconsciously looked up and glanced at the sign of the clothing store. At this glance, he was really surprised. It was actually the world's most famous men's clothing brand, La Florent. As far as he knew, this brand is the aristocratic brand of rice, extremely luxurious and expensive. A piece can easily cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. After entering the store, Patrick looked around, found that the clothes here are fashionable and noble. The color tone is calm and steady. Fabrics feel extremely textured, giving people the feeling of being very upscale. Obviously, the existence of top luxury brands had its own reasons. Welcome. Sir, ma'am, may I ask which one do you like? Sir, would you like to try this one? It suits your style. Seeing the three customers who came with extraordinary temperament, the shopping guide ladies in the store were enthusiastically introducing them. Patrick smiled and casually took a suit jacket handed over by the shopper. After fixing his eyes on the price, he suddenly sucked in a mouthful of cool air. Fuck. A jacket for $180,000? Crazy, right? Is this made of gold? Dare to sell to this price. The one I just bought, at $29,000 after discount, was already enough to make myself hurt. I didn't expect the price here to be so outrageous. Seemingly reading Patrick's thoughts, Ailsa glanced coldly at the shopper. She signaled her not to sell the clothes without authorization. In the face of Ailsa's powerful aura, the shop assistant wisely withdrew her hand. Ailsa looked around the store without saying a word. Then, she stretched out her slender white fingers, pointed at a few pieces of clothing, softly said, "This one, that one, the one on top, and the one inside." Following the direction of Ailsa's finger, the shoppers cautiously wrote down the 4 dresses that Ailsa pointed out. "Excuse me, ma'am, do you want Mr. to try on these 4 dresses?" "Just a moment, I'll go get them for you to try on." Such a top luxury brand's clothes, someone actually wanted to try on 4 of them as soon as they came up. The shopping guide ladies were instantly excited. The store was here with big money, too generous. Just when all the shopping guide girls were overjoyed and intended to bring the 4 pieces of clothing. But they were shocked by Ailsa's next words. "No. I mean, I'll take everything except those 4. Pack all the styles that fit his size for me." After speaking carelessly, Ailsa twisted her water snake waist and walked towards the sofa on the side. After sitting down, she crossed her legs, queenly, and quietly looked at Patrick in front of her. At this moment, the store assistants in the store all stood in place with their mouths wide open and shocked faces.